Minneapolis police are looking for a man who broke into a shelter for women and raped one of the residents. Tonight we hear from the victim. She agreed to talk to Jeff Baillon because she wants to warn other women to protect themselves.
He grabbed me out of bed, he had the knife up to my neck, and he asked me, where's the money? He got the money and he put me back down the bed and he raped me.
It's a terrifying story. A 19-year-old woman, 7.5 months pregnant, attacked in her sleep.
And he had the blade up to my neck and I felt it even. That is messed up though. I don't know how any man can do that kind of stuff.
She's talking to us about the attack because she wants it to be a warning to other women.
I'm scared. I can't do anything by myself anymore.
Mary moved into this Minneapolis shelter a week ago. She came here to have her baby and learn how to live on her own. With steel bars on the windows and combination locks on the doors, Mary felt safe here.
The assailant cut the screen that was here.
Early Monday morning, a man broke in and shattered a young woman's security.
This door was ajar. The young woman was asleep.
With a knife at her throat, he raped her. During the terrifying ordeal, all she could think about was the safety of her unborn child.
I'm physically fine, but emotionally, it's messed my head up. Like I said, I can't walk across the street. I'm scared in the middle of the day. I'm scared when people are around me. I'm scared to look at any guys walking down the street thinking that they're going to do something to me.
The other women who live in the house are scared too. As the attacker left Mary's room, he wanted to know where the others slept. The shelter is already upgrading security here, planning to install an electronic system to help protect residents. But Mary says regardless of what happens, she'll never feel safe again.
I'll never forget it. And I'm 19 and I'll never forget as long as I live. I will never forget it.
So far, no arrest in the case. The suspect is described as an African-American with light-colored skin, mid to early 20s, about 145 pounds, and 5'7". Robin, back to you.
Now, we don't want women to think that there's absolutely no place for them to go, that a shelter is probably their best bet still. All right, Jeff?
Right, but again, this is a very troubling case because they did have some security measures already in place, bars on the windows, a lot of locks all over the place. This man still managed to get in.
It's terrifying. Thanks, Jeff. Gary?
Our team coverage begins with Jeff Baillon at the scene of the manhunt. Jeff?
Gary, just a few hours ago, this place was hopping with police officers. Now the streets are quiet, residents have returned to their homes, and as I mentioned, I couldn't be walking here a few hours ago because there were just so many officers in the area. This street had been closed. People had been evacuated from their homes because police officers are swarming everywhere on a big manhunt. Get back, now! The hunt is on for a cop killer.
Who drew a firearm, shot Officer Ryan, stood over him, shot him again, and removed the officer's handgun.
It's a brutal killing, more like an assassination according to police sources. Officer Ron Ryan stops in this church parking lot to check on a man asleep in a car. Ryan asks for some ID, and as he returns to his squad to run a check, he's shot from behind.
I heard one shot and a volley of shots.
Brother Paulie Johnson rushes from the church and finds Officer Ryan in the parking lot.
I saw a lot of blood. It was bad. Sad to something like that.
Witnesses tell police the suspect is driving a red Plymouth with Iowa license plates. He's identified as 26-year-old Guy Harvey Baker. Less than an hour later, the car is found abandoned in the parking lot of an East Side liquor store. By now, an army of police officers is combing the neighborhood. A helicopter is watching every move from above. Somewhere in those woods, the suspect is changing into military fatigues, painting his face so he blends in with the brush. He's carrying several guns and a large knife.
Be advised, party may fled near direction.
Police dogs pick up the trail of the suspect. It leads them to this garage on Conway Street. Officer Tim Jones and his dog Laser are moving in. The suspect is hiding in a fish house. As they approach, gunfire erupts. The dog attacks. Jones and the animal are both hit.
We heard what we thought was like a gunshot, but there's helicopters, and then all of a sudden, boom, just went crazy. A whole bunch of gunshots, just ran for the house. We're yelling, gunfire, gunfire.
Police think Baker is holed up in this house. Tear gas is fired inside. SWAT teams move in, but Baker isn't there. We're about a block away from a wooded area the police have surrounded, and in those woods is where they believe the suspect may be. Now, other officers have been going door to door in this neighborhood, telling residents to get out. Residents closest to the standoff are escorted to safety. By now, it's been more than 5 hours since the first police officer was shot. Baker could be hiding anywhere. Police think he may not be alone. They're also looking for Jay Berente. Both men are from Mason City, Iowa. Police then zero in on a woodpile and find Baker. He's taken to St. Paul Ramsey Hospital, bleeding from the dog attack. For the rest of the afternoon, police continue the search for Berente. They go house to house, but there's no sign of him. Now, Berente is wanted in Mason City, Iowa on an attempted murder charge. Police there say he was involved in a shooting several weeks ago. He and Baker are said to be roommates, and police believe both of them came here to St. Paul. It's not clear tonight whether or not Berente was involved in any way with the shooting of the two police officers. Gary, back to you.
But either way, Berente is wanted.
That's right. Police are concerned because he does have that attempted murder charge hanging over him. They believe he can be dangerous, and so they want to find him for questioning.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Robin?
Gary, St. Paul Mayor Norm Coleman was...
Good evening. First on 9, a story you will only see here tonight, as police have broken up a major operation using stolen credit cards. And it's the way the thieves got the cards you need to be aware of. They lifted the plastic from lockers at health clubs here in the Twin Cities and then went shopping. Big time. Here's Jeff Baillon with our exclusive report.
Talk about a shopping spree. Take a look at this. Computers, car stereos, camping equipment, clothing.
A set of rollerblades.
And all of it purchased with stolen credit cards at a number of big stores in the Twin Cities.
Total value of the items that we now have seized from the airline shipment and from the search warrant in Dakota County is just over $31,000.
The investigation's just beginning. There could be a lot more where that came from. Police got tipped off to the scam by some workers at the airport. Somebody bought a one-way ticket to Los Angeles on American Airlines. They checked 3 big boxes, but the passenger never showed for the flight. The airline notified police, who found all this stuff packed inside. When the boxes didn't show up in Los Angeles, 2 men showed up here at the airport to find out why. And that's when police put the nab on them. One of the suspects is from California, the other from Illinois. Both are in their early 20s. Police got a search warrant to check their motel, and they found even more merchandise. Investigators say the items were charged to the accounts of some Twin City residents who recently had their credit cards stolen.
Apparently they were taken from lockers of people at health studios, and the locks apparently were still intact.
Police have confiscated a laptop computer from the suspects, which they believe contains master combinations for a number of locks, meaning they could break into just about any locker they wanted with ease.
Precincts are just starting to come in. Let's go back to Carlson headquarters and Jeff Baillon for the latest. Jeff?
Thanks very much, Robin and Gary. We're at the Carlson headquarters downtown Minneapolis at the Marriott Hotel. A big crowd here starting to show up, and they're very pleased by how the results are coming in so far tonight. And we want to update you on some of the latest numbers we have. There you see on the screen with 13% of the precincts in, Governor Carlson with a big lead over Alan Quist. Now, Governor Carlson spent this evening, he went out to dinner with his brother, first of all, then he came back here to the hotel. He's now upstairs in a hotel room with his family. They are said to be channel surfing, watching the results coming in on all the various channels in town. I'm sure he's watching Channel 9 right now. And he will be coming down probably around 10:30 or so, when it looks closer like he's going to wrap this thing up. He's said to be very confident at this point that he's going to win this race, but he doesn't want to come down yet and claim victory until he's seen more of the results come in. So we'll be standing by here live, waiting for the governor to show up, and when he does, we'll be sure to bring you his message. Back to you now.
Thanks, Jeff. He couldn't win the endorsement of his own party.
Gary's off tonight. Jeff Baillon is sitting in. Jeff?
Thanks, Robin. Judging by the phone calls to the offices of Minnesota's U.S. senators, there's little public support for a Haiti invasion.
So you're opposed to the invasion of Haiti? Okay. I'll pass that comment along to the senator. Thanks for your call.
Senator Wellstone's office has received more than 200 calls opposing U.S. military action. Fewer than 50 callers support an invasion. That's about the same ratio of calls taken by Senator Durenberger's office. The opposition is taking to the streets. In downtown Minneapolis, protesters demonstrate against military action in Haiti, and Nicole Stewart tells us who's speaking out. U.S. out of Haiti! The case against a rookie Minneapolis police officer charged with kidnapping and sexual assault is proceeding. 26-year-old Michael Parent will be back in court on November 14th for a pre-trial hearing. A date for Parent's trial will be determined then. Parent remains free on $50,000 bond. A foot of water in 48 hours has caused record flooding in northwestern Wisconsin. Reporter Tom Lydon went to Bruce and Ladysmith, Wisconsin, two river towns that are becoming more river than town.
In northwestern Wisconsin, they've got two very angry rivers on their hands.
To add insult to injury, two small tornadoes went through unpopulated areas of Polk County last night, but luckily there was no damage.
The medical procedure takes only 15 minutes.
We're going to take a break, but before we do, we want to ask you what you think of our newscast. We've made a lot of changes lately, and every now and then we give you a chance to tell us how we're doing. So give us a call on the 9 line right now at 946-5630. That's 946-5630, and please dial carefully. We'll play your comments throughout our newscast.
And coming up next, how much will it cost Exxon for the nation's worst oil spill in Alaska? The company just got another bill, and it's no drop in the bucket. Stay tuned. Opening our USA file, an Alaskan jury slaps Exxon with a $5 billion bill.
The punitive damages award is just the latest chapter in the Exxon Valdez disaster. Commercial fishermen, Alaska natives, and property owners sued Exxon for $15 billion. Company lawyers argued the oil giant shouldn't have to pay punitive damages. Exxon says it's learned its lesson with the cleanup and other lawsuits filed by the state and federal government. The company plans to appeal. Fire trucks raced to the White House this afternoon when workers smelled something burning. No fire, though. Turns out a light fixture short-circuited. White House officials say the problem's been fixed.
Opening our global file,
What a day in space.
Back away. It's 20. 0 and 6.
Astronauts Mark Lee and Carl Meade took turns spacewalking and tumbling free of the shuttle Discovery. The astronauts are wearing a new jetpack system designed to be a sort of life preserver for work crews in space. The jetpacks worked, bringing the astronauts under control from their tumbling. Astronauts hope to use what they've learned when they build the space station. This was the first untethered spacewalk in 10 years.
Whomever said lightning never strikes twice never met a 35-year-old mail carrier from Sartell, Minnesota.
Well, coming up, shades of Fred and Ginger, ballroom dancers putting on the Ritz and kicking up their feet in the Twin Cities. And speaking of kicking up their feet, look who's back high-stepping on the big screen. Don't touch that remote. Welcome back. We're going to check in on the night desk where Lisa Sortquist is listening to the scanners. And what are you hearing?
Hi, Jeff. Well, tonight there's been an accident in St. Paul. The car was traveling eastbound on 94 just past Marion Street. And tonight St. Paul police are telling us that 2 people have been taken to United Hospital.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. We're going to check for the latest on the AP wires. Jen Marnowski is tracking that, and what have you got?
Some new information on the Haiti invasion. Apparently the first reserve units have been called up. They are not from Minnesota, they're from the East Coast, and also the government has now dubbed the Haiti invasion Operation Uphold Democracy.
Okay, thanks, Jen. The U.S. Senate race in Minnesota is expected to be a very expensive one, perhaps as much as $7 million. Well, Republican Rod Graham's added $400,000 to his campaign war chest today. Contributions turned in by Texas Senator Phil Graham. Now, DFL candidate Ann Winnie is taking issue with that, saying Graham's is being rewarded for his support of the Super Collider project in Texas, a project Winnie calls nothing but pork.
And so I simply ask Rod Graham's for this explanation. How do you justify spending billions for pork barrel projects in Texas instead of providing lunch for school children in Minnesota?
That news conference was held in front of a St. Paul restaurant named. Investors are smelling inflation in the latest report on manufacturing. Industrial production surged 0.7% last month, led by strong auto output. Factories, mines, and utilities operated at nearly 85% capacity, the highest level in more than 5 years. That news brought this warning.
The jump in capacity.
The stock market reacted to the report negatively. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down a bit, more than 20 points on very heavy trading.
Well, the world's cool, cloudy, and gray sums up our day today.
But Sherry says things are going to change for the weekend. She'll tell us what's in store in just a bit.
Rain, and Jeff, Robin, we kind of need that after all the rain that we've had the last few days.
Sure do. Gosh.
No argument here.
Thanks, Sherry.
Up next in Bits and Bites, a millionaire looking for a wife, and it could be you or someone you know.
And opening soon over a river near you. It's been a long time coming.
Tonight's Bits and Bites file has a tip for ladies who are looking for a single man who's rich. Head to Columbus, Ohio.
That's where an anonymous millionaire is searching for a wife, and he's advertising that fact in no uncertain terms. There you go. He rented a billboard for his message to would-be brides. If you've got to be 35 to 45 years old, though, and he'd also like to know a little bit about you, and he asked that you send a recent photo of yourself. And so far, he's gotten 14 voicemail calls from prospective mates.
You've been using the company Watts line again, huh?
Don't tell anybody.
A month from today, life returns to normal for a lot of Twin Cities drivers. The historic Mendota Bridge that spans the Minnesota River will reopen in October after a 2-year facelift. Photographer Peter Brown gives us some perspective on the final stages of construction.
Okay, well, we will see you Monday. And the movie on Monday will be The Drowning Pool. Paul Newman at his best.
Have a great weekend.
Good night.
Welcome back. All those stories still ahead. Gary's off. I'm Jeff Baillon. A great-grandmother's fight to keep her kids off the witness stand fails. Now she fears the children may be the target of gang retaliation. Tom Lydon with a story of how fear on the streets has now entered the courtroom.
I'm afraid for their life, and I'm not certain.
Tom, police must be concerned about the message this sends to other witnesses.
Absolutely. They've seen this case before with the murder on the East Side last year. They are seeing a trend where people are afraid of this kind of retaliation, are afraid to testify. If you don't have people testifying as witnesses, you're not going to get convictions. They're aware of this. They're very concerned.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Tom.
A Minneapolis teenager accused...
Hennepin County is being sued by a former employee who says she was stalked by a coworker. Mary Anderson used to work in the county's Office of Public Affairs. She claims supervisors knew about the harassment but allowed it to continue.
She wants to be compensated for the fact.
Now, the evidence in this lawsuit includes this videotape from a hidden camera showing the man ripping leaves off a plant in Anderson's office. He ended up being suspended for 2 weeks without pay but still works for the county. Anderson is seeking damages in excess of $50,000.
Well, coming up next, developments in the Simpson case. Results on the DNA samples. Do they link O.J. to the murders? O.J. Simpson's lawyers may soon be forced to admit police found their client's blood at the scene of the murders of Nicole Simpson and Ronald Goldman.
Genetic tests show a match between Simpson's blood and blood drops found near the bodies of his wife and Goldman. But experts say that fact doesn't necessarily mean the prosecution's case against the ex-football hero is unbeatable. A hair found on Goldman's clothes is also reported to be that of a black man. It's being analyzed to see if it matches Simpson's hair. Simpson goes back to court Monday for a hearing. The defense is trying to get charges dismissed and to have much of the evidence thrown out.
In our global file, mortars and gun...
Douglas Wilder of Virginia drops his independent campaign for the U.S. Senate. He's lagging in a four-man field led by Republican Oliver North and Democratic incumbent Charles Robb. Wilder, the nation's first black governor, is having trouble raising money. Wilder's term ended in January, and then he entered the race for Senate. Just 4 days ago, Tom Foley was calling Ann Wynia a calculating liar. Now the state DFL party is uniting as Foley throws his support to Wynia 2 days after she defeated him for the party's nomination for U.S. Senate.
This campaign is not about...
Foley says that a lot of campaigns misrepresent things in their closing days before an election, but the most important thing he says now is to elect a senator who is a Democrat.
Minnesota 9 News has a forecast anymore. Thanks, Sherry. We'll see you later.
Sounds good. The 9 Line still wants to hear from you about what you think about the invasion of Haiti now that the president's told us his plan. Here's what some of you are saying.
I don't think the United impeachment.
Keep calling. We'll have more later.
But coming up next.
Yeah, I mean, we had this party last night and...
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
25 years later, and we still don't know what to expect from these guys. History books say 1969 was the year of the moon landing and Woodstock. But for fans of absurdist comedy, the real landmark event that year was the BBC's launching of this.
Monty Python's Flying Circus.
You could call Monty Python's Flying Circus one of the greatest collections of clowns ever put together. Python players enjoy get-togethers like the one in LA, but say there aren't any plans right now to hook up full-time for another series. If you're in the mood for watching movies at home, we've got some good news. There's a few new releases at your local video store. Check these out. Well, they've been singing and strutting their stuff since 1960, and it's finally earned the Temptations a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. Motown legend Smokey Robinson joined the two-time Grammy Award-winning group for the honor. The Temptations began singing together as a group in the 50s. Can you name their biggest hit? If you say My Girl, you guessed right. It stayed at #1 on the charts for 11 weeks. The hottest showbiz news in 60 seconds or less? Better believe it. Here's the scoop. Former First Daughter and Playboy cover girl Patti Davis is... And that's entertainment news. Up next, St. Paul Schools, a new approach to get kids who skip class to stay in class.
Because there's a special bond there with your childhood friends, and I think that'd be fun.
Her childhood friends are from St. Cloud, we should add, and we did say that there would be no Marianne and no Ginger on Gilliland's Island, but this is a special exception. She's quite an athlete and keeps moving up the ladder.
A very mature young lady, too.
Yeah. She's getting married next week, too, so congratulations on that.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Gil.
Well, now we want to go on the loose with Nicole Stewart, who's in downtown Minneapolis at the State Theater.
Hi, we're at the Historic Hotel. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Nicole. You're a big fan of that show.
I love the show. I love the show. I'm a huge fan. I went last year when it was at downtown at the Uptown, and I had a blast. I cannot tell you how much fun it is.
I have to admit, I have not seen it.
Well, you're going to have to
Now
watch.
I did. Looks fun. Looks like a lot of fun.
It is.
Coming up, our business report and a big day on Wall Street.
First, let's hear what you had to say on our 9-line about Haiti.
We have the power. Tonight, we know one of the generals who will fight the TV battle to become the 5th network. The United Paramount Network is making Lucille Salhaney its president and CEO. Salhaney has been chairman of Fox Broadcasting since 1993. She says job one is adding more affiliates to UPN and getting the network programming in place for the January launch. The government gave market investors more reassuring news that inflation's being held in check. That translated into great news for the Dow, which closed up 58 points on very heavy trading. The Dow Jones is now within a few dozen points of its all-time high.
Coming up next, Sherry Ackerman is back with the weather.
And she'll give us a look ahead to the weekend.
Since we've seen so many sunshines on that forecast, so it looks pretty good anyway. Jeff, Robin, going to get a little time outside this weekend. I think you're going to enjoy that.
Great.
Super.
Looking forward to it. Super.
Applause for Sherry. Up next, our Bits and Bytes file.
Look what's popped up in York, Pennsylvania. We'll tell you who's trying to make a buck next. In tonight's Bits and Bytes file, another example of somebody trying to make a buck off murder suspect O.J. Simpson.
Up to now, it's mostly been people who sell sports collectibles. Well, now a donut shop in Pennsylvania is getting in on the act. It's put up a billboard that reads, "Free OJ" in huge letters, but the fine print says, "When you buy a dozen donuts." And from what we hear, a lot of people are stopping in and taking advantage of the offer and drinking a glass of juice with their dunkers. Only in America.
Not comment on that. Gilly's here for a quick update. We got you here. Yeah, give us a quick update since you're here.
Well, we've got a big football weekend, so we'll have a lot of prep football tomorrow night. Anoka at Blaine and Eden Prairie at Burnsville. Two tough games.
Good high school football. We can count on that.
There's the Bears and the Vikes on Sunday.
Okay. That's all for us tonight. Thanks for joining us. We will see you tomorrow night after the movie Dogfight.
Good night.
Thanks for watching Minnesota 9 News, your first late-night newscast.